Spot On is supported by the Boston University Sargent College's Master of Science degree in Nutrition program. Log on to bu.edu to learn more about this fabulous nutrition graduate program. You are listening to Spot On, a health and wellness podcast that breaks through the latest media headlines to provide you with accurate and usable information that is, well, spot on to meet your needs. I am your host, Dr. Joan Salge Blake, a nutrition professor at Boston University and the author of the college textbook called Nutrition and You, which is used in colleges across the United States and abroad. I know we did a previous Spot On episode with my good friend Toby Amador about the beginner's guide to meal prep and how to, get meals on the table quickly for very busy people, which we all are. But, sometimes you can't cook. And this is why I'm doing today's segment. And sometimes you just don't have time to slice and dice. And that's why I want to take a deep dive into the deep freezer about how frozen foods may be quite good and easy to put on your plate. This is going to be an interesting Spot On episode because I think everything you think you know about frozen food is probably all wrong. So what we're going to do is go to the street and find out what folks think about eating frozen food as a meal.
I do like frozen food, but for veggie, I prefer the fresh ones.
I generally avoid them whenever I can, and I'm used to home-cooked meals.
I live on frozen food. I think they're cheap, convenient, and they taste good.
I'd say I prefer not to have frozen foods as a meal more than maybe once every few weeks. I guess in general, I don't think they would provide enough nutrients for what I need. So I try not to make a regular meal of them.
Frozen food, I think it's convenient, but it doesn't taste good as the fresh food.
I love frozen food.
I would definitely not hesitate to go to my fridge, grab some frozen food, eat it as a meal, but I wouldn't do it every day just because I kind of want to eat healthier.
The nutrition value of frozen food is just the same as the fresh food.
I feel like frozen foods are kind of tasteless sometimes, and I'm sure they're high in sodium and they're just not really good for you.
Let me tell you about my guest here, Heather Mangini. She's a registered dietitian and a sports guru in Pittsburgh, and she's going to be on the line from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I want to tell you how this segment all came about, this episode of Spot On. Heather and I went to an excursion to a big company that does frozen foods, and Heather and I were blown away. Speechless, which of course is hard to think that I'm speechless, but if you think I talk a lot, wait till you hear Heather. She was speechless also about how frozen food is processed and it's really unbelievably nutritious, and how it goes from the farm into that freezer, and how the meals, the whole thing, we were just in awe. And I turned to her and I said, we are doing Spot On and you are coming on, and she couldn't even say no to me. So with this, I'm going to tell you about my good friend Heather Mangini. I already mentioned she's a registered dietitian, but she's also a sports dietitian, and she has written a book about sports nutrition for young people called Fueling Young Adults, and we're going to put that up on the Spot On Facebook page, as well as her gorgeous picture eating a massive amount of pasta, and hence why she has a vowel at the end of her name, Mangini, because she's Italian, as is why I think she and I are sisters. So Heather Mangini, welcome to Spot On.
Hi, Joan. Thank you. I'm so excited to be chatting with you today.
I'm so glad that I got you on the line here. So, frozen food, I've always been a big fan of frozen food, and for so many reasons that we're going to get into. And then I want to talk about these frozen meals, because the frozen meals that are in my freezer were not the frozen meals my mother had in the freezer. We're talking a whole new line of unbelievable frozen meals that can be quite helpful for busy people. So with starting with that, I got a statistic, Heather, that according to the Frozen Food Report by the American Frozen Food Institute, 35% of shoppers have increased their consumption of frozen food in the past year. So we're talking something that it's like retro. We're going back to the way we were raised. Tell me, why do you think you're seeing this, rise, and we're seeing the rise in people going back to the freezer to get their food?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons, but for one, it's people are busy. I mean, consumers are just so busy, and I work with busy families, so this is like my people. My people are the ones buying these foods, but I think it's also individuals as well. So I think it's just multiple reasons, but they're great for people that are living alone or that are only eating for one because they're portioned, they're single, they're easy. But also for busy families like myself, it's like if you don't have time in the evening to get, home cooked and get everything chopped up, then it just makes it easy. It's very, very convenient, and they're much, much healthier and more balanced than they were years ago.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. It's funny you said that because the Hartman Group just did a survey about Gen Zs in the kitchen, and both male and female said that I don't have time to cook. So it's not, I think everybody is so busy that you don't have time to cook. And that was about 36% of them said that, and almost 50%, which was really mind-boggling, and probably a whole nother segment. In fact, we did a segment on this with Toby Amador, and 45% of them said, I don't know how to cook. And so, that's a whole nother segment that we have addressed in the past. But, for the busy times, especially busy times in the year, as the holidays come up upon us, and, as for college students in the semester when they're studying, they don't have a lot of time on their hands. So I love that idea that, it saves time and it has that convenience. What I also love is the taste. So I mean, really, you can't get much better than frozen fruits and vegetables.
Oh, absolutely. I know I would not be able to survive. I wouldn't be able to feed my family healthy meals without frozen fruits and vegetables. I honestly I can't even imagine. I don't know how people would do it. It's just that, maybe as a single person, you have the time to go to the grocery store a couple times a week. But, when you're cooking for an entire family, I don't have the time to do that. So I buy huge bags of frozen fruits and vegetables, and that's a staple.
Right. And again, going back to even single people, busy people, when you think about this, like if you have frozen vegetables in your freezer, they're cleaned, they're chopped. They're ready to go. It's like having a little chef in your freezer, tucked away in the back with the ice cubes. So all this work is done. And, you talk about, like they said, these Gen Z said that we don't have time. Well, guess what? This is all done for you, and it's all taken care of. And what I love about it is no food waste.
Yes, that's the key, especially with things like fruits and vegetables. I mean, that's the benefit is you can pull out what you want, cook it, and then put the rest back in the freezer, and the next day pull out some more if you want it. But it does save significantly on food waste, which is always a concern of mine too.
Yes. You know how I'm crazy about wasting food. Everything goes into the soup. We have this mystery. Forget mystery meatloaf. It's called mystery soup in my house. We don't even know what's in it. We just slurp it up. What's interesting, because we know that if you put, especially produce, if you put produce in the refrigerator and it stays there for days on end, and of course, Heather, we've discussed this before, but I can't stand in the refrigerator where the vegetable bin is. It's on the bottom of the refrigerator. I call it the vegetable graveyard because it goes in there, honey, right? And you days on end, and all of a sudden you pull it out, and that broccoli is now like combat green. And and let's face it, we always say fresh is best, but not really, because that combat green broccoli, is it as nutritious as it was 5 days ago?
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the issues is, if you are on the farm and you eat the produce immediately, you're eating it at the peak time. And as it travels through the food chain and gets to the grocery store and then gets into your refrigerator and then how long it sits there, you're dealing with days and days and days. And, the nutrient value it's not a huge loss. I mean, you're still going to get nutrients from eating that produce, but it definitely does degrade over time. And I think what people don't realize is that frozen, especially like frozen fruits and vegetables, those are picked sometimes at their peak time, and then they're frozen.
Right.
So all of those nutrients remain in that food. So sometimes they can even be slightly more nutritious than if you have fresh and you've gone through the chain, especially someone like me that lives in Pittsburgh, who I'm relying on a lot of transportation to get this fresh produce to my grocery store because we don't have a lot of fresh farms around me.
Right.
So it's it's a great option, and I don't think people realize that it's sometimes just as nutritious, if not sometimes a little more nutritious.
Well, you sure in the dead of January that there aren't any farms in Pittsburgh under the snow?
There are farms, just not like strawberries and all the things that I love to eat fresh.
It's so right what you said about that, because there was a study at the University of Georgia, and they did side-by-side day of purchase comparisons between fresh and frozen variety of produce. And after 5 days, initially the fresh and the frozen had the exact same amount of nutrients. So exactly what you just said, because it's flash frozen. So when they looked at that, they were perfect. But after 5 days of the fresh wilting in the refrigerator, the frozen food was superior in vitamins A, C, and a B vitamin called folate. So again, we have this. If you can't get the fresh, or it's Tuesday, or you're in Pittsburgh in January, you can go to the freezer and pick out Mother Nature's, finest, and really feel it's great.
Right.
Because
you feel good about it.
Yes,
I mean,
right.
I have a great example, because last week I had all intentions. I had this perfect idea. I was going to make pork and fresh asparagus for dinner, and I had Brian stop at the store and pick it up on the way home. And then I don't even remember what happened to my night, but it didn't go as planned. And literally yesterday, I looked in my refrigerator. And I'm like, oh, there's that asparagus, and I am like, oh, I guess I'm going to have to cook that. And then I ended up pureeing it and putting it in as a little bit of a thickener for a soup, just like you said. But I know how to use those, to not waste the food, but a lot of consumers just don't know. They wouldn't even know what to do with it, so it ends up being wasted, which is really sad.
Which is very sad. You could you put those in the freezer, the asparagus, and pull them out for another time?
Well, I could, but not in the shape that they were in.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's a visual we're not going to put up on the Spot On Facebook page.
Are you having trouble sleeping, focusing, or relaxing? If the answer is yes, then the TM Softs White Noise Sleep Sounds podcast has got you covered. This hour-long podcast is made to help you get rid of distractions, reduce stress, relax, and most importantly, get better sleep. You can listen to sounds of nature, white noise, relaxing music, and much, much more. You can check out the TM Softs White Noise Sleep Sounds podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
I used to do like things to keep in your dorm room or things to keep in your college apartment. And it used to be, you didn't think about this before. I didn't, it was years ago. But now it's like, well, this makes it easy. You can actually have a salmon meal if you have a freezer and a refrigerator and a microwave, because it's just that simple to make it. So it's no longer just, little convenient cups of yogurt, which are also awesome. But like you really have so many options.
Right. You absolutely have so many. And, even if you're in a college dorm, because you have that microfiche, I know you probably don't even remember this because you're so old, but remember it was like a refrigerator and a microwave together? So you really, in the little freezer in there, you could actually do this and have it even in your dorm room if you wanted to. Didn't have a...
Exactly.
Right. And that's another benefit, right? So for people who have limited kitchen space and don't have room for a lot of utensils, I mean, I don't have, gazillion knives and, carving things and everything. I'm basic. I'm a basic girl. So if you don't have a lot of utensils, you don't need it because everything's done for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Saves on time, convenience, everything. Right. Yeah. It's really amazing where it's come.
I want to tell you, I share another a study with you, because we often think that, fresh is best. And again, if you take out, this is kind of crazy when you think about it. When you take a takeout meal, someone just made that for you, right? So you have this psychological thing that, okay, it's fresh because someone made it. And we know that takeout food is, big now and big for these time-impaired people. But when they did a comparison of frozen meals to quick-serve restaurants, like, the frozen meals did better, much better nutritionally. They had more fiber, more calcium, more potassium, and they had less heart unhealthy saturated fat and added sugars. Because of what we just said, there's a chef that's thinking about how I can make this frozen meal more healthy and tasty, where the takeout is just anything goes. So it's
That's right.
Yeah, it's so funny. And let's talk about the cost savings.
Yes.
I mean,
no, it's interesting. I have to comment on that because I talk to this about with my clients sometimes, because we'll have like restaurant menus that will have like a 500 calorie menu, or the specialized menu where the calories are controlled, or even they tell you how many calories. And I remind them that those are based on like somebody calculating out the meal. But when you have a chef in a restaurant or takeout, or they're not measuring with a little tablespoon the way that you might think they are. But when they're making these meals, they are, because they actually have that nutrition panel on there, and they have to, what it says is in there. So it's much more controlled, and there's a lot more thought that goes into that than just, going to a restaurant and picking it up.
That's right.
Chefs aren't doing that because they want to, give you more than you think you're getting, but it's really just a matter of like thinking about it and really understanding what the purpose is. So
right, that's true. That's right, because by law, everything on that nutrition label has got to be accurate by law.
Exactly.
So this way, it's totally controlled, which is terrific.
Yep.
You talked about pizza, but I have to tell you, years ago we just thought it was, a frozen pizza was in there. But let me tell you, have you seen some of these frozen pizzas that are available now?
Yes, they're amazing.
They're amazing. I mean, they're amazing. And they cauliflower crust, whole wheat crust. I got tons of veggies on there. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. So, talk about, if a lot of college kids and young adults like pizza. So is that going to be a good meal to have?
I mean, I think it's great. I have a frozen pizza in my freezer at all times, but I think it's just a matter of how often you're doing this in terms of like looking at overall nutrition. Like, it's not the frozen pizza or the pizza shop. It's more, how if you're eating a frozen pizza or going to a pizza shop every single day, well, maybe you want to increase variety in your diet a little bit. But actually, the frozen pizzas that are available now, there's so many different types that you can get tons of different variety if you're buying the different types and the different varieties of them. But if you like thin crust, thick crust, if you do like, tons of vegetables, they just have really gone. It's just amazing where they have gone. You're not getting just cheese pizza or pepperoni pizza anymore. You're really, whatever you want, there's an option for you out there, which is, again, it's just it's come so far.
It is. And you can get roasted vegetables or grilled vegetables on top. And, you can add your own. I've done this all the time, that you can get frozen grilled vegetables, which are phenomenal. And I put them on the frozen pizza. And I got a veggie pizza that has double the amount of veggies on it. So that's another good way to sneak in veggies in the diet. And again, no slicing, no dicing, no chopping, which I absolutely love.
Exactly. And I, because I work with like an active population too, like I'm always looking at like balancing out protein in that meal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I just recommend, getting that frozen pizza. And if it is a vegetable pizza, even buying the frozen, now that you can buy frozen bags of just grilled chicken too. And then putting that chicken on top of that pizza. And then you have that balance of protein and carbs and, healthy fats that you want. So it's really, you can do, if it doesn't have the veggies, you can buy the veggies and put them on. I love putting like fresh greens on top of the frozen pizzas that we buy. But you can, kind of thinking about the protein options too. There's just there's a lot you can play around with pizza.
That's very interesting, Miss RD, because the third thing that when people were looking at when they buy frozen meals, according to this survey, we said the number one thing was looking at the sodium or the salt content. 2 was calories, and guess what number 3 was? Protein.
Protein.
Yes, protein. So, you're right. So if they see that, gee, this is just a cheese pizza or a veggie pizza and it's really low in protein, they want to get more protein in their meal. Especially a lot of these young people are very, very active. That's a great idea. I didn't even think about putting the grilled chicken on top of the pizza. That is really a fabulous idea.
Yeah, I do that at home, even when I'm making homemade pizzas. But like, I'm always adding a little bit of toppings to them in terms of protein, because a lot of times they just don't have any. And if they do, sometimes it's not enough for what you're looking for. So there's just so many options.
Right.
Right.
And again, from looking for all my research I do on these, but young adults are interested in healthier ingredients and good nutrition. I mean, this is what they're looking for. These Gen Zs are really sharp. So again, if you're looking at the frozen meals and you're seeing that the ingredients is just food, that's what it is, and putting healthier vegetables on or healthier protein, adding to it, you got yourself a really fast meal that someone created for you. But, but before I let you go, I just need, come on, tell me. I told you that my Trader Joe's wild salmon is like my go-to. So give me your top 2 frozen meals.
Oh, I will. Well, I would say always I have a frozen pizza in my freezer. My kids love like a margarita thin crust pizza. It's always there. And for me, it's more about like if I need quick. I just have something available all the time. I also always have I buy bulk frozen vegetables, frozen fruits, but I also buy frozen protein. Like they have like turkey and roast beef meals, and those, when you're looking at those, sometimes they have gravies on them. They do have a little bit more sodium in them, but they are so convenient for a night whenever it's like I have 20 minutes before I have to get the kids to their activities, to practice, or, even for college students, it's like, I got to get to class. They're just so simple. You pop them in the microwave for 3 minutes. So I always have the protein options in my freezer too.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting rid of the refrigerator and just putting a big freezer in the kitchen. You know what I mean? What the heck? I'll just eat from the freezer for the rest of my life. All right. Miss Heather Mangini from Pittsburgh. She is a sports dietitian and nutrition guru as far as helping people eat fit, better nutrition into their very, very busy life. And I can't thank you enough for sharing all your wisdom today on Spot On.
Oh, you're welcome. It was great to chat with you, Joan.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to Spot On. Please subscribe to Spot On your favorite podcast app for new episodes every week. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Joan Salge Blake. And also like our Spot On Facebook page and suggest topics for future episodes. And oh, by the way, could you ask 5 of your friends or family members to download Spot On and subscribe to it? Do I ask a lot from you?